I used to believe that being the good daughter meant something. That if I stayed quiet, worked hard, never asked for too much, eventually, they would see me. Eventually, they would choose me. I was wrong. The call came exactly 7 days before my wedding. I remember because I was sitting on the floor of my apartment, surrounded by place cards and ribbon samples, my phone pinned between my ear and shoulder as my best friend Maya helped me sort centerpieces. Everything smelled like peonies and possibility. I was happy. Genuinely, stupidly happy. When my father's name flashed on the screen, I smiled. I thought he was calling to ask about final details. Maybe to tell me he'd picked up his suit. Maybe to say he was proud of me. I answered with joy in my voice. Hey, Dad. Silence. The kind that stretches too long and settles cold in your stomach before a single word is spoken. We need to talk about the wedding. His voice was flat. Clinical. The same tone he used when discussing quarterly reports or tax filings. Not the voice of a father calling his daughter 1 week before he was supposed to walk her down the aisle. I set down the ribbon I was holding. Okay, what's wrong? You know your sister has been struggling lately. I closed my eyes. There it was. There it always was. My sister. Hannah. 2 years older than me. Golden child. Center of gravity. The sun around which my entire family orbited since the day she was born. Everything always came back to Hannah. Every birthday party she sabotaged, every achievement she belittled, every moment she stole, and my parents always said the same thing. She's sensitive. She's going through a lot. You need to understand. I had spent 26 years understanding. What about Hannah? I asked, and my voice came out smaller than I wanted it to. My father exhaled heavily. She's having a hard time with this wedding. It's bringing up a lot of feelings for her. She feels overlooked. Like everyone's attention is on you, and nobody's considering how that affects her. I felt Maya's hand on my shoulder. She must have seen my face change. Must have watched the color drain from my cheeks as I realized where this conversation was heading. Dad, it's my wedding. Of course the attention is on me. That's kind of how weddings work. Don't be selfish, Claire. The word hit me like a slap. Selfish. I had never been selfish a day in my life. I had handed Hannah my toys when she demanded them. I had let her open my birthday presents so she wouldn't feel left out. I had gone to a different college because she didn't want us at the same school. I had delayed my engagement announcement by 3 months because she said it would overshadow her promotion. 3 months. I sat on the happiest news of my life for 3 months so she could have her moment. And now, 1 week before my wedding, it still wasn't enough. Your mother and I have discussed it, my father continued, and his voice had shifted now. Harder. Decided. I'm not going to walk you down the aisle. The words didn't make sense at first. They entered my ears but couldn't find purchase in my brain, like a key trying to fit the wrong lock. I actually laughed. A short, confused sound. What? Hannah doesn't want the attention off her. It would be devastating for her to watch me walk you down the aisle when she's not even engaged yet. She feels like you're rubbing it in her face. Rubbing it in her face, I repeated. My wedding. The wedding I've been planning for 18 months. The wedding she helped me plan by telling me my dress made me look fat and my venue choice was tacky. That wedding. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. My father's voice sharpened with disapproval. You're so hostile toward her. You've always been jealous of your sister. I couldn't breathe. I literally could not draw air into my lungs. Put Mom on the phone. I'm right here. My mother's voice. She'd been listening the whole time. Of course she had. They probably had me on speaker, the two of them sitting in their perfect living room, deciding my life like it was a budget line item. Mom, please. This is insane. You know this is insane. Claire, just go down the aisle by yourself for once. Don't start problems. You're perfectly capable of walking alone. For once. Like I was always demanding things. Like I was the difficult one. Like I hadn't spent my entire life making myself small so Hannah could be large. When have I ever started problems? I whispered. Name one time. Silence. Your sister is crying right now, my mother said finally. She's in her room, sobbing, because she feels like this family has abandoned her. And you're worried about who walks you down the aisle. She's 28 years old, I said. She's crying because someone else is getting married. Do you hear how that sounds? This conversation is over. My father again. Final. Absolute. I won't be walking you down the aisle. That's my decision. If you can't respect that, then maybe we won't attend at all. The threat hung in the air. Maybe we won't attend at all. It was designed to make me panic. Designed to make me beg. Designed to bring me to heel like it always did. But something inside me cracked that day. Something that had been bending for 26 years finally snapped. Okay, I said quietly. Okay. Don't walk me down the aisle. Don't come to the wedding. I'll figure it out. My father paused. I think he expected tears. Expected pleading. Expected me to fold like I always did. He didn't know what to do with this version of me. We'll see, he said finally. Maybe if you apologize to your sister, we can reconsider. I hung up. Maya was staring at me, her mouth slightly open. She had heard every word. She had watched my entire family discard me in real time, 7 days before the most important day of my life, and for what? For what? What I didn't tell my father during that call, what I didn't tell anyone, was that I had a secret. A secret I had been carrying for 3 months. A secret that would change everything. Because my wedding wasn't just my wedding. It was the day I would finally, completely destroy them. I had already set everything in motion. I had already gathered the evidence. I had already made the calls. The wheels were turning, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop them. My father thought he was punishing me by refusing to walk me down the aisle. He had no idea that he had just handed me the final piece of the puzzle. But what happened next was something even I didn't see coming. Something that would make the church go completely silent. Something that would make my father rise from his seat in shock. Because when those doors opened on my wedding day, I didn't walk alone. Someone had taken his place. Someone he never expected to see holding my arm. And the truth that came out after that? The truth was worse than any of them could have imagined. The 7 days between that phone call and my wedding passed in a blur of final preparations and quiet devastation. I told Daniel everything. He held me while I cried, his jaw tight with fury, his hands gentle on my back. He wanted to call my parents. Wanted to drive over there and demand they explain themselves. I told him not to. I told him I had a plan. He didn't ask what it was. He just looked at me with those steady eyes and said, "Whatever you need. I'm with you." That's when I knew I had chosen the right man. Not just a husband. A partner. Someone who saw me when my own family refused to. I called the one person I had been avoiding for 3 months. The one person who had been waiting for my call. The one person who had warned me this day would come. He answered on the first ring. "Claire." "I'm ready," I said. "I want to do it." There was a pause. Then, softly, "I'll be there." The morning of my wedding arrived cold and clear. December weddings are a risk, but I had always wanted winter. Something about the starkness of bare trees against gray skies felt honest to me. Real. Not pretend perfect like summer weddings with their golden hour photos and pink sunsets. Maya helped me into my dress. It was simple. Elegant. Lace sleeves that came to my wrists, a train that pulled behind me like snowfall. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself. Not because of the dress. Because of what I was about to do. "They're here," Maya said, peeking through the curtain of the bridal suite. "Your parents. Your sister. Sitting in the back row." Of course they came. Despite everything, they came. Not for me. For appearances. Because how would it look if the bride's family didn't show up? What would people say? They had no idea what people were about to say anyway. "How do you feel?" Maya asked. I met her eyes in the mirror. Ready. The organ started. The bridal march. My cue. I stood at the back of the church, behind the closed doors, my bouquet trembling slightly in my hands. Through the wood, I could hear the rustle of 200 people standing, turning, waiting to see me. And then the man beside me took my arm. Not my father. Someone else. Someone who looked at me with eyes that held decades of pain and regret and fierce, burning love. "You ready, sweetheart?" he asked. I nodded. I couldn't speak. The doors opened. The gasps hit me first. A wave of them, rolling through the church like thunder. People stood frozen, mouths open, eyes wide. Some people actually sat back down, as if their legs had given out. Others grabbed the arms of the people next to them, whispering urgently. But I wasn't looking at them. I was looking at the back row. At my father. He was already on his feet. Not standing politely like the other guests. Standing like a man who had seen a ghost. His face had gone white. His mouth was working, trying to form words that wouldn't come. My mother was gripping his arm, her expression shifting from confusion to dawning horror. Hannah looked annoyed. She always looked annoyed when she wasn't the center of attention. But even she could tell something was wrong. Something had gone terribly, catastrophically wrong, and she didn't understand what. But my father understood. Because the man walking me down the aisle, the man holding my arm with quiet dignity, his silver hair combed back, his suit perfectly pressed, was a man my father had spent 28 years trying to erase. My biological grandfather. My mother's father. Robert Callahan. The man my parents told me was dead. I was 14 when I found out the truth. I had been digging through old photos in the attic, searching for pictures of my mom as a teenager. Instead, I found letters. Dozens of letters. All addressed to me. All unopened. All from a man named Robert Callahan, who signed every single one with the same line, "I will never stop trying to find you, Claire. I love you, Grandpa." My parents told me he was a liar. A dangerous man. That he had been cut off for good reason, and I should never think about him again. I believed them because I was 14 and trusting and still desperate for their approval. But 3 months before my wedding, I started digging. I hired a private investigator. I spent thousands of dollars. And what I found made me physically ill. My grandfather wasn't dangerous. He wasn't a liar. He was a wealthy, retired surgeon who had spent nearly 3 decades trying to contact me. He had sent letters every month for 28 years. Birthday cards. Graduation money. Wedding congratulations when he somehow found out I was engaged. My parents had intercepted every single one. They had told him I wanted nothing to do with him. They had forged letters from me saying I hated him, that I never wanted to see him, that he should stop trying. And the reason they cut him off in the first place? He refused to give my mother money. That was it. He was a successful surgeon. My mother wanted a 6-figure loan she never intended to repay, and when he said no, she erased him from our lives. My father went along with it because my grandfather had also refused to invest in his failing business. Together, they constructed a narrative. A villain. A monster who never existed. They stole 28 years from me. From him. And for what? For money. For pride. For the convenience of never having to explain why they lied. When I finally called my grandfather, 3 months before the wedding, he cried. A 74-year-old man, a respected surgeon who had saved hundreds of lives, sobbed on the phone because he was hearing his granddaughter's voice for the first time since she was an infant. We met the next week. He drove 6 hours to see me. We talked for 8 hours straight. I showed him pictures of my life. He showed me every letter he had ever written, copies he had kept in a box, hoping one day I would read them. I asked him to walk me down the aisle. He said yes before I finished the sentence. So now, as we walked together past rows of stunned guests, I kept my eyes forward. I didn't look at my father. I didn't look at my mother. I didn't look at Hannah, who was finally realizing that something was happening that had nothing to do with her. I reached the altar. My grandfather kissed my cheek and placed my hand in Daniel's. Then he took his seat in the front row, in the seat that was supposed to be my father's. The ceremony proceeded. I said my vows. Daniel said his. We were pronounced husband and wife. People clapped, but the energy in the room was strange. Electric. Everyone was waiting. They didn't have to wait long. At the reception, during the father-daughter dance, I took the microphone. My father was standing near the back, still pale, still shaken. He hadn't approached me once. He knew. He knew something was coming. Thank you all for being here tonight, I said, my voice steady. I want to take a moment to thank the man who walked me down the aisle today. My grandfather, Robert Callahan. Polite applause. Confused murmurs. Many of you don't know this, but for 28 years, I was told my grandfather was dead. My parents told me he had passed away when I was a baby. They told me never to ask about him. They told me he wasn't a good person. I paused. The room was absolutely silent. But he's not dead. He's sitting right there. And the reason I never knew him is because my parents spent nearly 3 decades intercepting his letters, forging rejections in my name, stealing every card, every gift, every attempt he made to know me. Gasps. Loud ones. My mother's face had gone gray. My father looked like he might vomit. They did this because he refused to give them money. That's it. That's the whole reason. They erased a man from my life because of greed. I looked directly at my parents. Tonight, I'm announcing that I filed a civil lawsuit against both of you for intentional infliction of emotional distress and fraud. My grandfather is also filing charges for mail fraud, which is a federal offense. The evidence has already been submitted. Someone shrieked. It might have been Hannah. I don't know. I'm also announcing that I've changed my last name. Not to my husband's. To Callahan. My grandfather's name. I raised my glass. To family. The kind you choose. The kind that chooses you back. Daniel put his arm around me. My grandfather was crying silently, his shoulders shaking, but his eyes were bright with something that looked like peace. My parents didn't attend the rest of the reception. They left quietly, escorted out by security I had hired specifically for that purpose. My mother was hysterical. My father looked like a man walking to his own execution. The lawsuit settled 6 months later. My parents paid a substantial sum. They also had to publicly acknowledge what they had done. The local news picked up the story. Their friends, their colleagues, their church. Everyone knew. My mother's social circle evaporated overnight. My father's business partners quietly distanced themselves. Hannah moved to another state, furious at me for destroying the family, never once acknowledging that the family had destroyed itself. My grandfather and I talk every day now. He taught me to cook. He tells me stories about my grandmother, who died before I could meet her. He shows me pictures I was supposed to see decades ago. Last week, he asked if he could teach my future children to fish. I said yes. And my parents? They didn't just lose me. They lost everything they spent 28 years lying to protect. And I never spoke to them again.